Welcome to National third day of National Library Week. We're going to get started. Let me just warn you at the beginning. If you have to get back to work and we're running a little late, just feel free. Please go ahead and leave. We have a little bit of business to take care of right now. The first thing I want to tell you today is our murder mystery is this Saturday. So if you do not have tickets yet, the tickets are $30 with includes dinner, and then sit around the wonderful round table trying to figure out who done it. It's called Murder of the Mystery Detective. And so you find out, you try to figure out who did it, why they did it, and a few other things, and come up with some trivia questions for tiebreakers. And it's great fun. We hope that you attend. All right. Let me just turn this up a bit. There you go. Just remember, we have ESL classes for people, which is second language. Our summer kickoff for adults and children starts May 28th, which is Thursday. Working on that, we'll get more out to you later. And then if you want to visit the hush offices, please contact us. It's really simple, cost nothing, and we want you to be able to have a place where you meet with people, or somebody that's an entrepreneur and have a business starting, or just want to have time away and use those, but they need to sign up for. And then we have a newsletter. We have a podcast called You'll want to watch. And then we have, of course, our Facebook page and our web page, places like that where you can find announcements. If you're traveling, don't forget to use Hoopla, Sunflower, the library for your digital needs for listening and enjoying over the summer. And I'm going to introduce Donna Henry in just a minute, but first we have today you are being included in our Friends annual meeting. Because the Friends have to have an annual meeting that one is available to the public, and many of you are Friends members. So let me introduce and turn you over to Beth Vaughn, who's our president of Friends.
Welcome, everybody. Okay, as Melanie said, I'm Beth Vaughn. I am president of our Friends of the Pioneer Memorial Library, and one of the things that we want to tell you is our mission statement: to build a partnership between the library and the community to advocate for quality library service. Okay, so the meeting I'm going to call to order. Okay, call to order. Yeah. Okay, we are going to do some voting that the minutes of 2025 annual meeting. We will let Sherry read it, and then we will vote yes or no.
Hey everyone. The Friends of Pioneer Memorial Library 2024 annual meeting was held at Pioneer Memorial Library on Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. The meeting was called to order by Beth Vaughn, Friends Board President, 12:10 p.m. Board members present: Beth Vaughn, President, Shelley Belzer, and Marilyn Walls. Others present: Melanie Wilkes, Director of PML, and Lynn Duffy, Assistant Director of PML. In addition, there were 30 at-large members and guests present. In the absence of Friends Board Secretary Janine Kluwer, Melanie Wilkes, Director of PML, read the minutes from the April 10th, 2024 annual meeting. Joe Hartman made the motion to accept the April 10, 2024 minutes as presented. The motion was seconded by Marilyn Walls and carried. In the absence of the Friends Board Treasurer, Pat Erickson, Beth Vaughn reviewed the executive report. Income for 2024 totaled $106,023, which excluded $35,000 in grants and $61,495 donations for the Hush Office fundraising project. Expenses for 2024 totaled $5,720.20. The money for the Hush Offices has not yet been invoiced, will be paid out in 2025. The ending balance as of December 31st, 2024 totaled $113,632. and 30 cents. Marilyn Walls made the motion to approve the treasurer's report as of December 31st, 2024. The motion was seconded by Carlotta McDermott and carried. Beth Vaughn presented the list of candidates that were up for renewal as members of the Friends Board and voted on by proxy. 108 proxies were mailed out to Friends members, 44 of the proxies were returned, 33%, 108 required to be returned, equal 36 by today's meeting time. 2 of the proxies were returned without signatures and could not be counted. 42 proxies were tallied with all approving the renewal of the board members for re-election. Those elected for a 2-year term were Shelley Bilzer, Sherry Umbman, Beth Vaughn, and Marilyn Walls. Heather Dixon was elected for a 1-year term. Beth Vaughn gave the report of Friends activities for 2024. Business items: the Friends Board meets at 7 a.m. on the second Tuesday of each month, September to May. Meetings are open and all are welcome to attend. There being no further business, the meeting was adjourned, submitted by Lynn Duffy, Staff Secretary.
Okay, so this is when we would vote yes or no. Moved by,
I would move that we approve.
I make a motion that we move to approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All, nay, or, all opposed, say nay. Okay, so we have agreed that all in favor and so vote for yes. Okay, Pat is gonna talk about the treasury for 2025.
Hi. If you look at the financial report that we put in your packet, it shows the things that we have income from, and we have very good income. Trying to buy a post office, we were able to buy 3 post offices, and furniture, and so we still have some funds to help with other projects at the library, but our credits and income were $63,859.22. We had expenses for various items. We were planning a mystery dinner last year, and that did not come to be, so we moved on to this year. So our expenses this year have been $72,688.20. Our checking balance January 1st was $632.30. After everything's all taken care of, at the end of the year, we got $104,803.29. Any questions? Can I have a motion to approve them?
Motion to approve the treasurer's report. Second.
All in favor, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposing it? Okay, so the treasurer's report is good. Okay, so we have the presentation of candidates to serve on the Friends Board of Directors. And so we need to go, we have Heather Dixon, and Erickson, and Jamie. So the tally.
So we had 94 proxies were mailed out, 33% returned. That was a 31% return, which is what we require. Those were signed. So 40 proxies were returned by 12 o'clock evening time today. 3 of the 40 returned proxies were returned with no signature, therefore were not counted. So 37 votes yes for all 3, 3 not.
They've been elected then.
Huh?
I don't think we have.
I don't think so.
So it's the board members,
So the board members are
Heather Dixon, Pat, and Jamie McClure have been elected with the proxies. Okay, so we don't have to vote on it.
okay. Now we want to report on the Friends activities in 2025. Okay, so this is some of the stuff that we've done, the membership. Adopt a magazine. Adult teen summer reading. Children's programming. Downtown trick or treating. Murder mystery. Matt is coming out again Saturday. We still have a lot of tickets left. You guys are gonna have to get your ticket spot. And you still have time, but that's this Saturday. We also do books for lunch speakers and the Hush Office fundraising. And we did get a grant of $5,000 matching grant was received by the Pete Henry Foundation. So we want to thank everybody that has donated for that Hush Office fundraising we did last year. And additional donations, we got $1,000 donation was received through the Greater Kansas City Community Foundation from Piper Family Foundation. So, okay, now we have business items. We meet the second Tuesday of the month at 7 o'clock in the morning. And the meetings are open to the public and anyone is welcome to come. And if anybody is interested, being on board, we're always open to knowing about that, so just let us know. And if you guys have any questions about anything, you can ask one of us. Okay, the meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So, having finished the friend, I just want to tell you, the friend, their income is a major, contribution to the library. Without the friend, any, line items in our budget is not filled. So, it is fun to be on the board. You can do fundraising and do other things for the fun like the board ministry. So, yeah, it's great. Let me introduce now our speaker today, Donna Henry, and she's no stranger to both of you. She's going to talk about probability and some other things. I'm going to go to my presentation. It's going to start.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. I'm glad you all came out today. Oh, this seems really good. Still on? Turning it down? Okay, can you hear me now? All right, so this is the third consecutive day that you guys have had the lunch date with the library staff. That's a lot of fun, isn't it? Before I get started on the review, I wanted to do a little commercial for an event that we're doing at the library in May. We have an event every now and then called Talk About Literature. It used to be funded by Kansas Humanities, but they lost their funding. So now our library just funds it. And so once a year, well, several times a year, we have an event that everyone reads a book. Whoever wants to come reads a book ahead of time. And then they come that night and we discuss it. And this year, for this time, we're reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabriel Zevin. And it is a book about, it's a friendship between a guy and a gal. They meet with their children. The guy is in the hospital as a patient and the girl is there visiting a family member. And she walks by a room and she sees he's in playing a video game. And she goes in and starts playing the video game with him. And they strike up this friendship that lasts their entire life. And so you follow their friendship throughout. They end up going off to school. They grew up in California, but they both go to school on the East Coast, different schools nearby. So they maintain their friendship. They decide at some point they want to be video game designers. And so they start their own company. So the story is really the ups and downs of their relationship, their business, and they go through children and all that. It's really a good book. First, when it came out in 2022, I saw that there was a lot of hype about it. And so I thought, I don't know if I'm going to read that one. It's about video game designing. I don't like video games. And the cover, I don't know, it looks kind of science fiction-y or something, which is not my favorite genre. So I thought, I think I'll pass on this. Well, then not long after that, my daughter Callie and I were at a bookstore. And you know how they have staff picks. And the staff pick was for tomorrow, tomorrow, and tomorrow. And it said something like, for anyone who's ever loved someone, you need to read this book. And I thought, well, that's a pretty universal appeal. I'd better read it. So I read it, loved it, and I've recommended it nonstop ever since then. So if you want to count, here's how it works. They have multiple copies already here at the library checkout. You check out the book, read it ahead of time. You come the 21st of May at 7. We provide refreshments. We just put our chairs in a big circle and we talk about the book. And we always have a scholar that comes in and leads the discussion. And this year, our scholar is Taylor Hubble. You guys might know him. He's a Colby native. He graduated from Colby High School and he teaches English at CCC. And he has a very unique sense of humor and he's very entertaining. I think he'll do a really outstanding job leading our discussion. Just to give you an idea of his humor, he came one night to the CCC board meeting to give us an overview of the English department. And we were asking him about AI. We said, how do you keep your students cheating and using AI to write their papers? And he said, well, first of all, AI is not that good yet. He said there are certain words that pop up, certain phrases, there's kind of stilted language that college students probably wouldn't use. He said, here's what I tell my students. I knows it when I sees it. And so he will do a good job. So if you're interested in that, please join us. We'd love to have you. Okay, so I'm going to warn you guys. I created this game that we're going to play as we go through the review. And little ads pop up. And I told Garrett, technology expert, I said, sometimes it has like bras or panties that come up as an advertisement. I said, if that happens, you run up here and you click it off. He said, okay. We tried to figure out how to shut the ads off and you didn't do that. So anyway, so those of you who've been to my reviews before, you know that I love to play word games. And so I use a word game usually to maneuver our way through the review. And also it's a way to teach some of you a new word game if you haven't played this one before. So this one is a connections game. Has anyone played Connections? It's on the New York Times game app. Sally has. Oh, good. We're going to be relying on you, Sally. The way this works is, oh, and I also on the card that I put into your tables, I put this on just in case we had a glitch, we couldn't get it to work, and also because I know some people prefer to look at something smaller than to look at. So you can use either one. So here's how the game works. You have a grid of 16 words, and your challenge is to find 4 groups of 4 words that have a connection, something that is between them. Now, on the app game, when you play this, the 4 groups of words will have nothing to do with each other. Like, for example, you might have 4 groups of fruits, 4 groups of how to say hello, groups of European capitals, something like that. And so when you play on the app, have 4 chances to find the 4 groups of words that have connections. And if you don't find them, the app goes, next time, and it reveals itself. But since we're playing this and I can control it with the computer, you guys can have as many guesses as you would like until we get to it, and then we can go from there. Now, all of the words on our grid today have some sort of relevance to the novel. So that's not the case when you play it on the app. Okay, so I'm going to take you through this. I'm even going to give you the first word for the first category, and then you guys can tell me what you think those words go along with it, which other 3 words. So the word I'm going to choose is ChatGPT. Okay, so that's our first word. Let me use, this is not my computer, so I told Garrett I'm not used to this. Okay, ChatGPT is 1. Can anyone give me another word that they think correlates with ChatGPT? Gemini. That is correct. Copilot and Gemini. Where's Gemini?
It's right by Chat GPT.
I see it. And I heard Claude. Okay, those are the 4 words that go together. Can anyone tell me what the category might be?
AI.
Large language.
They're AI platforms, AI apps. Yeah, and that figures very heavily in our book that we're going to read today. So when I click on that, it's supposed to go down to Mint, and then it tells you what it is. Okay, So now those words are off the board and you can find the next three categories together. Okay, so in our book, culpability, it deals with AI. And what happens in this book, this is by Bruce Folsinger. What happens in the book is when the book opens, there's a family of 5 and they are driving, they're headed to their son's lacrosse tournament. And they're in an autonomous drive again. And the 17-year-old son is behind the wheel. And his father is in the passenger side, the passenger seat. He's on his laptop doing emails. In the back seat is his mother. His father is a lawyer, by the way, no, it's his name. His mother is in the seat behind him, and she is also doing correspondence for her job. And she has an interesting job, and this is a real job. I had to research to see if it really was a real job. She works in the AI field. She's a pioneer in the AI field. And what her job is, she writes algorithms, but she's trying to introduce human morals, human ethics into the AI algorithm. That is her job, and she's famous worldwide in the book. She knows her job really well. So she's working on correspondence. Next to her is Alice, their 13-year-old daughter. She's on her phone, and Izzy is in the back seat. She's 11. She's on her phone. So they're headed to this lacrosse tournament, and all of a sudden, Alice yells, "Charlie, stop!" And everyone looks up, and they see a sedan in the oncoming lane, and it appears to be veering into their lane. And so Charlie, who did not have his hands on the wheel. By the way, I should tell you, for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with autonomous driving cars, the car is not driven by the human, the car is driven by the algorithm. And it takes in all of these data points, and it is driving the car. And so his hands were not on the wheel, so he grabs the wheel and he jerks the wheel to try to avoid the crash. But he doesn't avoid the crash. Both cars roll. The sedan goes one way, bursts into flame, and the 2 people that are in that car are killed. It's an elderly couple who were on their way to visit. They were coming back from visiting family. The minivan also rolled, and when it comes to a stop, they realize that Charlie, the 17-year-old, and Noah, the father, have no injuries whatsoever. Their airbags did deploy, and it kept them safe. Now, the females all have injuries. Lorelai, the mom behind, she has a pretty severe neck injury, so she has to wear braids for quite a while. The 13-year-old has a severe concussion that's going to cause her to have a lot of attention issues, vision problems, headaches, that kind of stuff. And then Izzy in the back seat has the worst. She has a broken leg in multiple places. And so the EMTs, Patrick could have been there, the paramedic, they take him to a hospital, and they are here at the hospital. Then after that, they're released after a couple days and they go home. Once they get home, they realize that they have so many emotions about what is happening. All 5 of them feel that they are guilty, that they caused the accident. Now, as the reader at this point, you don't know why. You assume, well, yeah, Charlie, he was behind the wheel and he didn't have his hands on the wheel. He obviously wasn't looking at the road, so you can understand why he would culpability. The father, you can understand, he was in the passenger side, he was looking at a laptop instead of making sure his 17-year-old son is paying attention. But then again, it's a autonomous driving car. So, but you don't know why the mom or the 2 girls feel guilty of this, but they do, and they have really outsized emotions over this. So the mom decides, okay, we need to get away. We need to talk about this. We need to deal with this as a family. So they go to the Chesapeake Bay area to a place they like to vacation. They have a house down there that they rent, and they go there to see if they can work through what's been happening. Okay. And so at this point, let's go to the second category. Okay, I'm going to give you the word jealousy. Does anyone have an idea word that might go along with jealousy? Okay, jealousy, favoritism,
Negligence.
negligence is not one.
Homicide. Suicide.
Nope, homicide's not one.
Exclusion.
Okay, say that again. Talent is one, there's one more.
Exclusion?
Exclusion. Can you get, this is the most vague category when I came up with these. Can you guess at what this category might be? Yeah, something that would make you feel guilty, or it's common siblings complaints. For those of you who have more than one child, or siblings, and in a situation like what they've just gone through, they might have some of these, but just in their everyday life, they have these problems. So the siblings, let me tell you a little bit about them. Charlie, like I said, he's 17. He's going to turn 18 right after the accident. And he's good looking, he's smart. He's going to play Division I lacrosse, so he's obviously a gifted athlete, but he's undeniably privileged. He has succeeded at everything he's ever done in his life. And so to be responsible in his eyes for killing two people is really a burden for him. His parents both have very busy careers, but they have managed their careers so they can take Charlie to wherever his lacrosse events are at, dragging along the two sisters, which they don't always love. So but he feels, of the three, he's probably the most, what you would think, the most well-adjusted. Alice, the middle child, she is highly intelligent like her mother. She has trouble relating with kids her age. And so she comes across sometimes as caustic, quick to anger. It's really her feelings, some of these feelings that she has, like she feels, I have as many talents as my brother, but my parents don't see it. And so she feels that, they don't see her all the time. She feels like she's excluded from the other siblings because Izzy and Charlie very similar personalities, and so they tend to hang out more together, and that makes her feel excluded. So that's part of that. Izzy, the 11-year-old, is playful and delightful. Everybody loves Izzy, and so you would think she has no problems. And except for that, her siblings think, and this is very common, I bet some of you will recognize this, she's the youngest. She gets things before we did. She gets privileges that we didn't get.
Yeah.
And for example, Charlie and Alice both had to wait until they were 13 to get a cell phone. Izzy got hers at 11. Bear in mind, Alice is 13, so she just got her cell phone, and another month later, Izzy got hers. So her siblings feel like she's the favorite, and so they have those feelings of working through, and those are normal sibling complaints, like you said. But the whole idea was to go down to Chesapeake Bay and work through some of these big feelings, these big emotions we had dealing with the accident. And so they were going to do this as a family. However, when they get there, they have a next door neighbor who's a little ways away, and he is a tech mogul. And he has a daughter, Eurydice, who's the same age as Charlie. They meet the first day they're down there, and they are instantly split with each other. So Charlie, instead of staying home and dealing with all the things with the family, he's hanging out with Eurydice all the time. So his sisters are so mad at him because they thought they were going to have time together as a family, work through all of this, heal everything, and it's not happening. Okay. We also find out in this general time frame why the two sisters feel a culpability or guilt over the accident. We find out that Alice, when she yelled Charlie stop, she didn't even stop, there's a car coming. She had noticed that she was sitting, he had his phone in his lap and he was texting. And so she was yelling at him to stop texting. And then later she thought, what if, because he jerked the wheel, which would take the autonomous driving off. And she thought, what if I wouldn't yell? Would the car have done its own evasive and we wouldn't have killed those two people? And, Izzy wouldn't have a broken leg, so she feels horribly guilty for that. And then Izzy, we find out, Izzy feels guilt because she was the one texting Charlie. And so she thinks if I would have been texting Charlie, he would have been paying attention and this wouldn't have happened. Okay? All right, let's go to the third category of puberty. Of the remaining 8, let's see, let's start with manslaughter. Say that again?
Search and rescue.
Search and rescue, no, that's a good guess.
Homicide,
Homicide,
Weapons.
civil suit,
weapons,
negligence. These are 3. Can you tell what the category is? Legal ramifications for a car wreck, possible legal ramifications. Okay, this is a big part of the book. Okay, so it's about this time that they have found out that Charlie was texting. Noah is a lawyer. He's not a criminal lawyer, but he knows enough that he says Charlie needs his own lawyer. He's 17, now he's 18. They don't want anything to happen to him to keep him from going to North Carolina and play lacrosse. So they get him a lawyer, and then they hire another lawyer for their family because they're thinking, okay, there could be legal charges, there could be manslaughter, something like that. Then even if they can't prove that, there could be a civil suit. And it could cost our family a lot of money. So they're going to try to figure out how to avoid that. Charlie's lawyer tells him, okay, he's right up front. He says, I was texting, but it was an autonomous driving car. I shouldn't have had to be looking. He's trying to make excuses, trying to justify what happened. The lawyer says, you don't have to volunteer that you were texting, but you don't have to tell them. But if they do ask you, you have to be honest. But don't give anything away. You don't volunteer anything. So there's a female detective who drives down from their home area. She's a great character. And she comes in, she wants to interview Charlie. And so the parents say, we're going to stay and be part of this too. And she says, that's fine. Well, through her interviewing, she discovers that they're not going to be very forthcoming about what happened. And she straight out asked him, were you texting? And he says, I don't know. Doesn't say. She goes, I subpoena the cell phone company and get your records, and I can tell if you're texting. He's like, oh, okay. And she says, and what's really interesting is we can subpoena your car company and we can get all the data information that the autonomous car stores. And Noah says, what? She says, yeah, all of those data points that are used, whether you're looking at the road, whether he was looking at his sisters, whether he was texting, whether he had his hands on the wheel, whether he turned his car, when he jerked the wheel, did he jerk it toward the oncoming car? We'll be able to tell all of that. And they're like, oh, with that bombshell, she says, you just keep that in mind and I'll come back and talk to you again in a few days. We're going to subpoena these companies. And she goes back to their home area. Well, Charlie is really upset about this. So he goes to see Eurydice, and the girls are down at the beach. They don't even know what's going on. So it's at this time we find out why Lorelai has felt such guilt, why she thinks she's responsible. Knowing it all along is because, well, she was the one who insisted on this particular model of vehicle. And there were others that they looked at that she wanted this. And so he says, is that why you are so guilt-ridden? She says, no, it's worse than that. She said, I wrote the algorithm for that model of car. And I thought I had made it the safest that it could possibly be. And we still killed 2 people and possibly had terrible repercussions for our family. And he says, well, why didn't you tell me this? She said, well, I had to sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. Comes to find out that she'd been working with that tech mogul that's been living next door to them on vacation, Daniel Monet. And because of that, she couldn't tell him. She had to sign a non-disclosure. She couldn't tell him what she was writing the algorithms for. But something occurs right about this time that gives her the possibility of telling him. So now she does. He's like, wow, that's something else. So interestingly, guys, about 2 weeks ago, I just happened upon an article in the Atlantic about, and I put it on your, it's the article that's on your card. My Tesla was driving itself perfectly until it crashed. The danger of almost perfect theft by Rocky Kaporian. This Rocky Kaporian was the head of the autonomous driving department at Uber. And he had that job for several years. And he decided to buy an autonomous driving car. So he does all the research to see which one is the best. And at the time he thought it was the Tesla. So he buys a Tesla. And for 3 years, the car without any problems. So one day he's driving along and he's talking to his children in the car. And all of a sudden, this acrid smell comes up from the undercarriage of the car. And he's like, what is that? And about that time, the car swerves and he looks up and they're in a straight embankment. And he reacts quickly, but not quite quickly enough. And it crashes, the car crashes. Thankfully, there weren't life-threatening injuries. So in the article, he talks about that experience. And he talks about how the algorithm can malfunction. But he had gotten so used to it. He said, when I first had the car, I still had my hands on the wheel. I had my eyes on the road. I paid attention. But over time, the car was just doing its thing. And so I finally relaxed. And finally, he said, I got to where I was looking at the other people, I was talking to my children, I was eating a sandwich. He said, one time I even looked at a book while my car was driving, because the car is doing its job, like it should, like it's supposed to. But he says, you can't be complacent, you have to continue to monitor what's happening in the car. And that was his mistake, he said. But anyway, he said that it is true that those cars do keep all of that information, and there have been legal cases where car companies have shared the details from the car to shift blame toward the driver instead of the car company. Because they're advertised as autonomous driving car, but they're really, I wrote this down so I can get it straight. They're really a level 2 partial driver automation, which means that in some instances, the driver can be held legally responsible if the car crashes. And so that is really true. I never do that. So that was interesting. So, okay, so let's go to our final. We know what the 4 words are: chatbot, search and rescue, weapons, medical. Anyone tell me what those 4 words, what comprises the category? Things in court. I'll just tell you, it's easy. It's common ways that AI is used for artificial intelligence, ways that they're all used now. Medical, and there's nothing in the book that does with medical, but I had a personal story to tell you guys about medical. You know, our medical records, like with the my charts, all of that, medical charting is now being taken over by AI. And so one day I was getting ready to go in for an appointment, and you know how they have you check in online now. So I went online and had to check everything. Review your medications. I'm reviewing my medications. There's a medication on there that I don't take, that I've never been prescribed. So you can mark remove. So I marked remove. And when I went in to see my primary, the nurse said, I was looking over your online check-in. You asked to have this removed. Why? I said, I've never taken it. It's never been prescribed to me. I've never heard of that medication. And she said, oh yeah, that happens sometimes. So again, it just shows you how you have to continue to check things. Gregorian also talked in his article about a New York State attorney who was arguing the case in court, and he cited 6 cases that he thought gave his case a legal precedent for the ruling that he wanted. The only problem was he got those 6 off of ChatGPT. He didn't check them. They were not correct. So he was sanctioned by the New York Bar Association. So again, Gregorian's, his wisdom is saying, you know, check, you have to check these things. You can't just assume it's always right. Okay. In the book, there are ways that the other 3 are used. Chatbot Alice, because she has trouble connecting with kids her age. She has a chat, which is just a robot online. It's your friend. Blair is her friend. And so they use that a lot in the book. You actually see the actual conversations they have between Alice and Blair. And that's how we find out why she yelled Charlie stopped, because she tells Blair and she's talking to Blair about it. The search and rescue, one of the characters in the book goes missing, and they use search and rescue drones to find out. And so that's used in the book. And then the most interesting one, because it has a real life tie-in, is the weapons. Okay, the reason that Lorelai could tell her husband about the non-disclosure, about all that, is because the guy she was working with, Daniel, he took her algorithm to the Defense Department and showed it to them. And they want to use it to make better autonomous weapons. And they want to hire her to come in and supervise that undertaking. Now, bear in mind, she is an ethicist. She says to her husband, I feel like I was put on this earth to protect humanity, to protect humans. She said, well, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to take this job and think I can put guardrails on the AI to maybe to make it more humane? But I'm still killing people with these weapons. How is that humane? But if I don't do it, if I'm not there to put on those guardrails, what if someone else comes in and does it and they don't even put the guardrails? Or she says, maybe I should go to them and say, no, I am not doing that. And first of all, that's my intellectual property. It wasn't Daniel Monet's to bring to you, which was old enough legal battle. And so I'm going to refuse to use it. She said that in the long run, they'll more than likely just find someone else to do it, but at least it won't be me that's doing it. Okay, so this leads us to the real life talking. How many of you have heard of Claude, which is owned by Anthropic, and it's fight with the Pentagon? Okay, so a few months ago, Anthropic owns Claude, and they had a contract with the Pentagon, and the Pentagon contacted them and said, hey, we want to start using Claude to make better autonomous weapons and for mass surveillance of citizens. And Anthropic said, no, we have an ethical problem with that. We don't want to use our AI platform for that. So no, we're not going to take our guardrails off. And the Pentagon said, well, if you don't, then we'll just cancel your contract and we'll label you as plain a supply chain risk, which means that no other Pentagon employee or Department of Defense employee can use Claude. And so Anthropic said, fine, that's what we'll do, because we're not gonna make weapons or use it for surveillance. So they withdrew. OpenAI said, we'll do it. So they went in and they did it right away. Started working on it right away. And the case is still out there in the courts. But what's interesting is that so many people thought, oh wow, Anthropic is going to suffer financially because so many fewer people are going to be using it. But what happened was people started signing up for Anthropic in droves, because they were thinking, if I am going to use AI, I want it to be the ethical choice. And so they were rewarded for being more ethical in their lives. So I'm going to stop there and let you guys, if you want to read the book and find out what does Lorelai decide to do, does she take the job or not? Does Charlie ever end up going to the University of North Carolina to play lacrosse? Does their family get sued for the civil suit? Does their family ever come back together and get over this tragedy that they had to endure? I'll let you guys read the book to see what happens there. But before we move on to my 5 moments review, I wondered how many people here today would have realized how pervasive AI is in our daily lives. I think there are people who think, oh, we live in Colby, Kansas, out in the middle of rural America. You know, I don't work for the Defense Department. I don't own a drone. You know, I don't have to worry about that stuff. Other people have to worry about that stuff. So I thought it'd be interesting if we just had a short conversation about what are some ways that AI is in our everyday lives? What do we see that's going on? Yes.
Robocall.
Robocalls. Yes, definitely. Anything else?
Alexa.
Say that.
I work in health. Sure, you can mention about the portal for your health. A lot of the big health cares now are using it to review and deny.
Ooh, okay, did y'all hear that?
No.
Yeah, they're using it to refuse and deny claims for health insurance. Yeah, that's AI. Anything else?
Banking.
Say that again?
Banking?
Banking, oh yeah, banking is all AI now pretty much. If you get a credit card fraud alert or a banking fraud alert, that was triggered by AI. So I don't want people to think that AI is all bad. There are many good things about AI. It's not all bad, but sometimes I think we get worried about it. Anything else? Say that?
We were putting our dogs in the dog shit. And I was writing down the face for his pills and all that, And Brenda said, okay, well, let's just put that on AI and let's just see how that's. So out it came and it was just the way we needed it, or it was about half the size.
Yeah, so you can get on ChatGPT or Gemini and say, devise a schedule for my dog care with this medicine, and it'll devise it. Yeah. Okay. What else?
If you have facial recognition on your phone, that's AI.
That's AI. Yeah. In fact, your smart battery usage on your phones. You have a smartphone. When it says low power, switch to low power mode, that's AI. Yeah. Yeah. You don't even think about it, do you? Anytime you Google, you're on your phone or on your computer and you type in your information, that's AI. That's all AI now.
So I have a question that is a book, when I had this accident, how about seatbelt?
Well, they all had seatbelts on. They did. They were all properly restrained. Yeah.
Well, your car, whether it's autonomous or not, it has AI in it now, if you're buying,
Yeah, how many of you use, like, when you travel, you put in, like, I'm headed to Kearney, Nebraska, you put in your little information there in your car, and then that's AI. Anytime you use Google Maps, anything like that. I have a friend who planned an entire vacation using AI, told him where to stop, what events to do, how much gas it was gonna cost him. Yeah.
This is specific to technical thing, but on my picture on Facebook, the picture I have a picture of me and Lyle, and we can use AI to animate it. I know it is a picture, but I swear, when we look at each other and laugh and then turn away, it looks like us.
That is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. The one that, then you could also do heart and show Lyle and me making a heart together. Anyone that knows Lyle knows he would never back it.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah. Anything else you can think of that, if you're on Facebook or even on your computers, anything that, how sometimes maybe you've looked up, I was having problems with my SI joint. So I put in, SI joint symptoms. And suddenly on my computer and on my Facebook page, I had articles about SI joint. Where to be treated, symptoms, treatments, just all kinds of these things. And that is all, it's the algorithms that they use. And then they immediately flood your box with information that way. So I guess what we learned from that is it's part of our landscape now. We can't go back. AI is not going away. And I think, like me personally, I don't have the intelligence to go write an algorithm that will protect humanity. But there are things I can do to make sure that if I'm using AI, I'm using it ethically, and I'm checking it, and I'm verifying it. I'm making sure that the veracity is there, that it's true. And I think we can all do that, with however we're using AI. Because like I said, it's just, and like Florian says in his article, we just have to be careful. We have to be vigilant. So, okay, let's look at our 5 most reviewed books over here. Okay, so we have the names. Okay, I'll let you read the blurbs, and I'll tell you why I chose the names. Okay, when I looked at the blurb, And I saw that it followed how a kid and his family's lives changed if he was named 3 different things. His dad wants him to be named Gordon, his mom wants him to be named Julian, his sister wants him to be named Bear, which I think is so cute. And we have a bear here in town. Bear Strangle, yeah, I think that's such a cute name. But when I was a kid, I wonder how many of you felt this way. I thought, why did my parents name me Donna? It's such a big name, old-fashioned name. I knew I wanted to be a Becky or a Jenny. And then I think those would be old-fashioned names too. But it's very interesting. This was her debut novel, and it is really good. Now, it does go back and forth with 3 timelines, and I had a friend that read it. She said, I wish they would have just told the story of Julian, the story of Gordon, and the story of Bear. But I didn't mind the switching back and forth. So that's the first one. Let's see, the second one is The Correspondent. This one was my favorite book of 2025. I absolutely love this book. It is an epistolary novel, which means that the plot is shown through correspondence. So this person, she's in her 70s, Sybil Van Antwerp, who's one of my all-time favorite characters now. She has always written letters, emails to people. That's how she responds with them. She is a retired lawyer. She's very intelligent. I love her personality. She's very outspoken. Some people would say brash, but she's deeply compassionate. She counsels this young boy who's the son of a colleague who's having trouble in school, getting along with other people. And she counsels him about that through her emails. It's heartwarming. She has some sadness, past sadness in her life that she's trying to deal with. And that comes through the book too. But this book, I think, is heartwarming, completely heartwarming. And if you like to listen to books, this is one you'll want to listen to because the production is out of this world. There are probably 12 different narrators, and the woman who voices Van Antwerp is the best narrator I've ever heard. She is phenomenal. And this book is one that sometimes at night, if I can't sleep, I'll get my phone and I'll play a chapter or 2 from The Correspondent, and I go to sleep with a smile on my face. She writes a letter to Larry McMurtry. She writes others about their books, and she loved Lonesome Dove, which I love Lonesome Dove. And so lots of times I play that and hear that again. And it reminds me of how important correspondence is. We've kind of gotten away from it. So this is one of the almost reviewed. The next one, Heart That Lover, is checked out. By the way, all of these books the library has, so you can check them out today, except for Heart That Lover. Oh, it came in. Oh, so it just came in. Off the list here. You can tell this is a short book, only 256 pages. And it's about college friends, two guys and a gal meet in college, and they're friends at first. And then at different times, the girl dates one boy, and then later she dates another boy. They graduate from college, they go their separate ways, years pass, and they're not in contact anymore. And then one of the boys comes back into her life because he needs her help. Excuse me. He needs her help. And so they renew their friendship, and the other boy is brought in as well too. What I love about this book, it's also a feel-good book, is that it made me think about what people did I have a strong connection with when I was young, maybe when I was in college or before I moved to Colby, or even people that lived in Colby that maybe have since moved away. And I thought, of those people, who would I feel safe enough or comfortable enough to call them if I needed help? And it made me think of all the people in my life that I've loved and all the people who have loved me. And I love that. When a book can make you feel that, I thought, oh, that's a good book. So that's a good one to read. The next one, Jackal's Mistress by Crystal Hallion. I think every time I've given a book review, I have recommended the Crystal Hallion book. He's one of my favorite authors. He writes in all different genres. This book is set in the Civil War. It's about a woman who lives in the South. Her Confederate soldier husband is missing in action, and she's at home dealing with the family running the farm. She discovers a wounded Union officer in an abandoned house. And so she has to decide, do I go help him? Do I nurse him back to health? This would be a grave personal danger to her. in her family. Because there are roving bands of soldiers that will kill him in public, and they would think she was harboring a fugitive. And so she finally decides to take him in. One reason she does is because she thinks, why nurse him back to hell? Maybe I could take him to the front, excuse me, and negotiate for news about my husband. What I love about this book is it goes beyond that. It shows how we can be enemies to people and still form a strong connection. We're more like when we're different, you know. And Crystal Howland is really good off, so that's a good one to check out. And finally, We're All Guilty Here. That's a thriller. That's not my favorite genre, although my favorite book of 2024 is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. Not read that, you need to. Oh, it's so good. So I thought, okay, why do I love those two? They're both very well done. So this book is about two teenage girls in a small town who go missing. And the deputy sheriff, a female, one of the girls who goes missing is her best friend's daughter. And they were at a fireworks show, and this girl came up to the deputy and said, I need to talk to you. And the deputy said, I don't have time right now, maybe later. And then later that night, that girl and her friend go missing. And so she desperately wants to find these girls and find out if they're okay and what's happened to them. And this book has red herrings, and it has a really interesting FBI agent who has ties to the town that no one in the town is aware of. And it's going to be serious. It's set in North Falls. Karen Slaughter has said that she's going to write more books in this town with these recurring characters. And so it's really well done. I hadn't read of Karen Slaughter. Do any of you read Karen Slaughter? Yeah, I've never read it, and I'm going to read more now, because I was very impressed with that book. So anyway, okay, so that gives you 6 books, possible books that you can read, and maybe a new word game to play. So I'm glad you guys, did anybody have any questions or comments? They are all fiction. Yeah, they are. Are you a nonfiction reader or fiction? Both. Yeah, I lean more toward fiction. Maybe it's because I used to be an English teacher and I love fiction. So that's probably why I do.
You said check, if you use like chat GPT, check to see what chat GPT is telling you to prove.
Mhm.
What do you see from school, another AI? That's right.
You know, that's a really good question. How do you check the process? And I've asked them that. We know that, you know, maybe you go to others, maybe it's not right. And they said, but the more places you go, if it's cited there, then you can assume that it's probably accurate. Yes, Bob.
Add that if you look on like Google search, it'll spit out an AI answer, but it'll also give you articles that it's pulling those answers from. So you can go and like double check what the source is.
That's a great tip, really great tip.
You can also ignore the AI and go down farther on the search, even the second page, and check to see what the second page would have said besides the AI.
Yeah, because it does default to AI. That's
But
true.
you can get behind it.
Mhm.
You put it back to the search engine.
Okay, thanks guys for coming. Enjoyed it.